In the high-stakes world of pharmaceuticals, the old rules for success, well, they're officially broken. The strategies that built entire empires are now crumbling under the weight of just unbelievable complexity. So what is the new playbook for winning in this chaotic new world? Let's dive in and break it down. This quote from Bayer's Louis Barberini it really sets the stage, doesn't it? He said, "The Americans put a man on the moon in less time than it takes us to transfer a product between countries." I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That one sentence captures the immense scale, the inefficiency, and the urgent need for a totally new approach. So that brings us right to the core question of this entire explainer. In a world that's this complex, how did today's leaders actually win? What are the moves they're making right now that separate them from everyone else? To answer that, we're going to look at a brand new playbook curated directly from industry experts. First, we'll talk about why the old rules are so broken. Then, we're going to unpack 3 absolutely critical plays for success: mastering the partnership, deploying tech wisely, and navigating global chaos. And finally, we'll take a look ahead to the future of the game. All right, first up, the old rules are broken. Before we can even start to build new winning strategies, we have to understand exactly why the traditional models are failing so spectacularly. And the reason they're failing is because the industry is facing what you can only call a perfect storm, right? You've got global conflicts messing up logistics, supply chains that turned out to be incredibly fragile, massive pressure for sustainability, and even big generational shifts in the workforce. Any one of these would be a huge challenge, but all of them together, they create a whole new world. So, with that chaotic backdrop, what's the very first move in our new playbook? It's play number 1, master the partnership. Because in this new world, the ultimate competitive advantage isn't your tech or your process, it's the people. It's the human element. So what does a real partnership even look like? Well, Dr. Eric Hughes from Teva puts it just perfectly. The best situation is when you forget the lines between the CRO and your own internal people. Think about that. When you actually forget who works for which company. That is the goal. It's about a seamless integration, not just another transaction on a spreadsheet. But, and this is so important, it's a two-way street. Felipe Fioriotti from Grunenthal makes a crucial point. To have a good partner, you have to be a good partner. He says, we need to strive to be an easy client. And that means getting your own house in order first, having clear goals and total internal alignment before you even think about engaging with an outside partner. Now this is one of my favorite concepts from all the material, the paddle ball principle from Louis Barberini. He says, think of it like beach paddleball, not like tennis. There's no net between you. The goal is not to score a point on your partner. The goal is to keep the rally going, to hit them a good ball so they can hit a good one right back to you. It's all about mutual success. So, how do you actually put this into practice? Well, the experts laid out a pretty clear philosophy. It means treating suppliers as true partners, not just vendors you're trying to squeeze. It means finding the magic in those informal coffee conversations. It means using a crisis not to point fingers, but as an opportunity to build trust. And it means reframing quality, seeing it not as a roadblock, but as a collaborative dance toward a shared goal. Okay, so with the human element in place, we move on to play number 2, deploy tech wisely. Look, in an era of nonstop hype about AI and digitalization, this is all about cutting through the noise to find what actually adds value. And here's a fantastic, concrete example of what that value looks like. Jerome Janssens from MSD talks about an AI agent they're building. It pulls in all the manufacturing data from different sites, plus historical documents, and it generates a list of potential hypotheses for why something might have gone wrong. Now, this doesn't replace the experts. It supercharges their ability to solve really complex problems and to do it way faster. But before you get too excited about AI, Mike Talarczyk at Sandoz offers a critical reality check. He warns, you must first bring your master data under control. It's that classic garbage in, garbage out problem, right? You can have the most advanced AI on the planet, but if you're feeding it bad data, its conclusions are going to be totally useless. This really highlights the massive shift in thinking. The old way? Chase the latest shiny tech trend and let vendors drive your strategy. The new playbook flips that completely on its head. First, you structure your processes. Then, you identify what really needs to be automated. And only then do you go find the right technology to support that process. In short, process leads, tech follows. It's a game changer. Okay, so you have strong partnerships. and smart technology. That brings us to our third and final play: navigate global chaos. This is really where we put it all together to build resilience in a world that has proven to be fundamentally unpredictable. To give you a sense of the sheer scale of this chaos, just look at this number. Sandoz manages over 400 external manufacturing partners. Just try to imagine the complexity of coordinating that many relationships across different countries, cultures, and regulatory environments. That's the challenge we're talking about here. So how in the world do you even begin to manage that? Well, here's a brilliant case study from Bayer, which they cheekily named Project Martini because they wanted to shake up their network. They put a huge portion of their manufacturing out to tender, but they weren't just hunting for the lowest price. They rigorously assessed every potential partner on strategic fit and long-term viability. It was a complete, proactive overhaul of their entire system. This quote from Mike Tellerchick really captures the core mindset you need for this play. He says, "Nobody knows exactly what will happen. You must be prepared for multiple scenarios." The key takeaway here isn't about trying to predict the future. It's about building the flexibility to handle whatever the future decides to throw at you. Okay, we've covered the playbook. Now let's look at the future of the game. What are the next big challenges coming down the pike where this playbook of partnership, tech, and resilience becomes absolutely essential? First up, gene therapy. I mean, these are revolutionary one-and-done treatments, but they completely break the traditional models. How do you handle reimbursement for a single extremely high-cost cure? How do you manage a supply chain for a therapy that's unique to a single patient? It requires a total paradigm shift in how we think. Next up is sustainability. The pharmaceutical industry produces a staggering 4.4% of global CO2 emissions. This is no longer a nice-to-have you can just mention in the annual report. It's become a core business imperative that fundamentally changes how companies design their processes, and crucially, who they even choose to partner with in the first place. And finally, the competitive landscape is just heating up like crazy. Olaf Birkenmeyer from Polpharma Biologics puts it about as bluntly as you can: run faster to survive. He warns that there are incredibly good companies in China and India that may not even be on the radar of Western pharma yet. Complacency, he's saying, is simply not an option. And look, this chart proves these aren't just abstract ideas. When you actually survey industry leaders on their top priorities, the results are crystal clear. They point to the exact same three themes we've just discussed: partnerships, technology, and resilience. So this playbook isn't just theoretical, it aligns perfectly with the strategic reality on the ground. So why does all this matter? Why go through the trouble of mastering this complex new playbook? Well, in the end, it really comes down to this quote from Julian Lisi of Volneva, who reminds us all of the ultimate purpose. We're not producing iPhones or AI, we're improving global health. That's something very noble to keep in mind. And that right there is the why behind the entire game.